ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to episode 32. Yay, we're back after a little bit of a hiatus.
Yeah,
it's been good to have a little bit of a break, bit of decompression. You went away, didn't you? You went away for a holiday.
Yeah.
And we were just saying how nice it is to be back here and back with you all, doing a podcast. So before we head into the meat of the podcast, just in terms of this heading forward, I think for us now we're going to go to a fortnightly podcast. So you'll get a podcast once every 2 weeks, and that's just going to be a little bit more manageable for us to do.
Yeah.
And to keep coming up
Being
with,
honest.
and keep coming up with quality content.
It's quality over quantity.
That's right. It was sort of getting to the point where we were struggling a little bit to keep coming up with stuff that we sort of meaningfully wanted to talk about every week.
And the thing is as well, being honest, like we don't want this to become a chore, like we
Absolutely.
want, or a job. We want this to be a labor of love.
Yeah.
So being able to do this fortnightly gives us sort of the freedom, and it's still a novelty to us.
Yeah.
A Friday every 2 weeks is really nice.
Yeah.
And
I think when we started this, and I mean, I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but you'll notice again, sorry if I cough and stuff, I'm a little bit sick, but you'll notice if you go back to like our very early podcasts and stuff, the format and things of what we were doing was very, very different. And it sort of occurred to us, we were just kind of going and going and going and going, from episode 1 and the pre-episode, we were just, cranking stuff out, trying to see what worked, all of that sort of stuff, trying to hit our stride, trying to work it out. And, after sort of 31 weeks, we were kind of just going and going and going. We sort of felt, that we had to sort of go, okay, what's the next step in what we do and how we go about continuing to manage this and how we go about continuing to do this, because we were just so like get more stuff out there, out there, and it'll work.
Yeah.
So we're happy to be back, happy that you're here with us, and again, as I said, we'll be looking at moving to fortnightly streams and stuff will continue, but looking at fortnightly podcasts. So thank you for being very patient with us as we sort of
and being so understanding. That was really nice. Like, people have been really lovely on the Discord and all
absolutely.
That, so
and thank you for joining us on the streams, which have carried on and those sorts of stuff. And we look forward to getting back into streaming together and doing some cool and exciting stuff there.
Yeah.
So, welcome back. So, with that in mind, beer of the week this week.
Beer of the week.
Beer of the week this week is a Tuatara APA from Paraparaumu, I think it is, down there. Yes, it is. Paraparaumu down there in Wellington. What do you think of the Tuatara APA? Now, we've done a Tuatara before, but it wasn't this one, yeah.
It wasn't this one. I'm actually really enjoying this. I need to find a new thing. I've had 2 weeks to come up with that.
That's right. They're just missing it now. It's now becoming a catchphrase. Yeah.
I am, though. I'm really enjoying this, and I think this is right up there. I think for me, this is an 8.4. I think this is lovely. This is really good.
It's a good beer. I was actually introduced to this beer through work colleagues. So I've had this beer before drinking it tonight on the podcast, and I do like this beer. This is one of those, when you're sort of sitting there going, what do I feel like? This is one of those go-to beers.
It is, yeah. Tuatara is a staple of Wellington.
Yep.
They serve it in the Hunter Lounge in Vic Uni.
Yep.
But they the thing I like about the APA, usually an American pale ale is really strong.
Yeah.
Usually, when a lot of craft beer places, they think, okay, an APA, it's just shove as much alcohol into this as possible.
Yeah.
But I think what I like about this is that it's not too overwhelming. It's quite nice. You still get a bit of a punch, but it's not trying too hard to.
Yep. And I know I mentioned this the last time we were on here with I like the bottle design. I like all of that sort of stuff.
Same here.
It's a really nice beer to drink. I'm going to give it an 8.7.
Oh, nice.
So I like this beer. This is a beer I really recommend.
It's a 5.6
for
an APA
alcohol.
That's quite low. So if you want an APA and you don't want to be smashed, because usually APAs can get up to like 8%.
Yeah.
They can get really dense. So if you want an APA that's not going to
hugely alcoholic,
throw you over, go for this Tuatara APA.
Yep.
It's a really good one. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
So thanks, Tuatara.
Yeah. Cheers.
Right. Okay. So moving right along, we into what's on top, and what we're going to talk about this week is over the last couple of weeks while we've been on hiatus, I have done a few interviews for for very secret things. I can't tell you about what those interviews were for yet, but done a few.
Even I don't know.
I know a few secret things, but I've done a few interviews, and one of the things that has struck me is the number of very similar questions you get asked in interviews that are really dumb. And you get asked these almost without fail, like, and going into an interview, you've done a few interviews in your time,
absolutely, I have. I'm a millennial, of course I have.
That's right, and this is not just for work. We've done interviews across multiple sectors and multiple things, and so what I thought we might do is we might look at not specific interviews, but look at some of our favorite dumb questions that we get asked consistently in interviews.
Can we put a bit of a spin on this?
Yes.
So whenever you bring up the question,
okay,
the other person has to answer it how they would in an interview. So whenever you say, we'll do a call and response.
Excellent. I like this. I like this.
Yeah.
This is good. See, this is called adapting content on the fly. Okay.
We've had 3 weeks.
Yeah. So my first one, and this is a personal bugbear for me, but this is the first one I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Is okay, Anthony. Where do
I wouldn't be sitting.
You
like
wouldn't.
That.
You know.
You straight posture.
Yes, and you.
My hands would be very sweaty right now.
Yes.
My hands are very sweaty.
I know. I hate it. You get nervous before going in
because I'm wearing a long sleeved shirt and I'm wearing a jacket.
Nice blazer with a probably a shirt and a tie.
Shirt and a tie. Yep. So
and you're welcome to use this as an interview prep. But because these questions you will without fail be asked at least one of these questions 100%. In an interview. 100%. So the first one I'm going to ask you is Anthony, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I see myself. I want to build up my time here at this company. I see myself here. I see myself basically trying to strengthen the company from within and really grasp the opportunities that this company will give me. So
lovely. Yeah, my standard answer to that one is usually something along very similar lines, which is something along the lines of, look, I'm really looking to grow.
Yes,
in this role, and learning to develop the skill set, develop a new skill set, but also bring what I've previously learned to this job, and hopefully be valuable within this particular role. Now, why is this a dumb question, Anthony? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Nobody knows where they're going to be in 5 years. Oh my God. I couldn't tell you where I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Yeah. Like, people in this day and age, you cannot honestly say you'll know where you are in 5 years. No. And if you know where you are in 5 years, then you're being quite obtuse or you're being naive. Because with how quickly life can change now, and it actually, do you know what it actually proves as well? Is that if you know where you're going to be in 5 years, it means that you are going to be blatantly ignoring opportunities as they come to you. Yeah. So you're basically saying, no, I'm going to say no to any fantastic opportunity that is going to come my way within the next 5 years, which is crazy.
I think, like, what I've the only way I can reconcile these questions to myself, right, or the reason that you get asked these is that I think that a lot of these questions are model questions that come out from like a very corporate environment, right, or for those kinds of things, and they get asked all the time because people kind of go, here are good interview questions, and people ask them without thinking about how much they actually translate into your job. Now, like, if I was in a hospital, for example, and I was interviewing for a doctor, then that question would make sense. If I was saying to you, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Because you might be sitting there going, look, my goal is to complete my surgical residency and then move into a specialist field or whatever. So that question would make sense. Yeah. If I am interviewing for a sales position in a general retail store or something, the question,
and in Slough.
The question, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, is a really stupid question because you as somebody who's being interviewed
Yeah.
gets caught in the middle of going, I have to come up with some answer that means that I'm potentially going to be here in 5 years' time. So I'm not going to offend them.
Yeah.
But I also have to then walk that line with not appearing too ambitious that I'm going to be like, within 5 years, I'll be doing your job. Like,
Exactly. Yeah,
And so
yeah.
you've kind of weirdly got to walk that line in between, like, what you think the person wants to hear. So you're never giving an honest, you're never giving an honest answer.
You're
So
not.
I hate that question, and I fully agree with you. Nobody knows. I mean, Jesus, if I look back in my life 5 years ago, I would not have picked
100%.
that this is where I'd be.
What
in
was 5
time.
years ago? What was that? 2014.
2014.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I know. It's insane, isn't it? Think about how much our lives have changed in 5 years.
Incredibly.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And I think especially as a question to ask younger people going into low-level jobs and things like that, it's a really dumb question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very dumb.
This is a slightly more theatrically specific one.
Okay.
And this is, again, Anthony and I have done a number of interviews where you're pitching for a show. So you're the director and you're saying, hey, look, or you're going into...
And this should be relevant to a lot of people listening.
You're going in to do you're looking at it. Either you're saying to them, hey, look, I want to do this show and this show is going to be amazing. Or you're going in, they've already got a show, and you're going in and you're saying, hey, I'd like to direct it. One of the questions that always gets asked, and I think it's a relatively silly question, but here it is.
Okay.
Anthony, how many people do you want in your band?
What is your budget?
Yeah. Now,
I want an 18-piece orchestra.
Okay.
Is what I want.
Yes, but I know that your budget is not going to stretch.
By the way,
to
I'm not
18
the
people.
musical director.
That's right. And
I'm not the musical director.
And this is why it's such a stupid question.
It is an incredibly stupid question.
Is that whenever you are, generally pitching, and okay, I have done both direction and musical direction, but I know that, for example, whenever I'm directing, those sorts of decisions are going to be between my musical director, what they feel they can work with, based within the budget that they have, all of those kinds of things. That's a decision for my musical director. That's not a decision for me. So asking me how many people, I mean, that's a pick a number.
It is.
Kind of,
it is.
I don't know, I haven't had it. And often, whenever you've got to this point in pitching a show and things like that, you might have seen... you've probably seen a script and you've seen maybe a score, but usually a vocal.
I hope you've seen a script if you're pitching for a show.
But usually a vocal score. You'll have seen a piano vocal reduction. You'll have seen a script. You won't have seen the score that comes out with this. So you have no idea at this particular point what that show is scored for. So you've no idea whether in the orchestration that you get sent it's for a 43-piece band or a 6-piece. You have no idea. Yeah. So again, it's pulling numbers out of thin air. And asking you a question that actually isn't to do with your job.
I've been asked how many backing singers I would like. It's backstage singers. And that was one of the questions that took up the most time of my pitch. And I thought,
hang on a minute, why am I answering this
question?
question?
And what, and it's crazy. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that people feel they need to ask questions when they don't necessarily need to.
Yes.
So people just ask because they.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me think. Yeah. We'll head back into the general work field.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah. Something relatable.
And again, I'm going to preface all of these ones with, I think that these questions make sense in specific industries, or if you're hiring for very high-level career jobs. They don't make sense in an average interview, but you'll get these questions in an average interview. Here's my next question.
Okay.
What type of salary are you expecting from this job?
Yeah.
Why is this a dumb question?
This is a dumb question because when the person asking the question went in to do this, they already have a set budget for how much they can pay this person. So when they ask how much this person... There are multiple sides to this. So the person being asked this question will either lowball themselves or they will go too high,
Yeah.
thus putting off the person asking the question. Now, the danger you have is that if you lowball yourself, then you've screwed yourself over, and whatever. But if you go too high, then they'll go, okay, well, we can offer this, but so you lose. It doesn't matter what the person answering says, you lose in this situation every single time.
Now, I would understand if you were advertising or you were interviewing for a CEO position within a company, that question would make sense. If you are advertising for a general retail worker, a general, a store manager, this question doesn't make sense. And this question doesn't make sense because you have a very, as Anthony just said, a dictated salary range for these people. So you know how much you're going to pay them. And so this question becomes a guess what numbers in my head kind of question. And as Anthony's pointed out, like you suddenly go, Jesus, if I go too high, they're going to go, no, don't want you. If I go too low, then I'm screwing myself out of being paid what I'm worth to do this job. I'm going to give you a model answer. What I think is a model answer to this question. So, whenever I get asked this question these days, what I generally tend to say is something along the lines of, well, look, I obviously bring a large amount of experience into this role, but I understand that you have a salary range or a salary brand, a salary range or a salary band for this particular position. So in terms of my salary expectations, I would assume that you will offer me the amount that you think is commensurate with my experience coming into this role.
Good answer.
Yeah, and so then you put it back on them to kind of go, okay, well, this is how much we would be offering you, or this is, and then there's always, generally sometimes in and around that there's some wiggle room. Again, depending on so it puts it back on them to turn around and say, right, well, we're going to offer you X amount a year. And then you can decide whether you're happy with that or you're not happy with that or whatever, in which case you can turn around and say, oh, well, look, if that's the salary, I'm not interested in the job. Or you can turn around and go, Jesus, that's much more than I probably would have asked for. But it puts it back on them to then put it in. Because they do. They know how much they're going to pay you.
They do. Of course they do.
This comes across... this comes across all the time in lots of stuff, and I don't understand why employers don't front end with that. So
it frustrates
employers
me,
should, or any time I've run interviews, I front ended with that. So gone, if it's a one-off contract, like let's say directing, or it's whatever, you front end with it and you go, hey, look, okay, here's the position, and here's what we'd be looking at you doing. Now this comes with X remuneration package. So this is, we'd be looking at paying you X amount. Because if somebody has an unrealistic figure in their head in terms of how much you're going to be offering, there's no point in going through the massive interview process, getting to the point where you want to offer them the job, but then they're going, oh no, I want, $80,000 more than you're prepared to pay for me. There's no point in going through that interview process. So at least at the beginning, they can turn around and go, oh, well, look, if we can't agree on that figure, or they go, actually, I won't do it for that money, then there's no point in doing the rest of the interview, rather than coming at the end of the interview and then guessing a number that's in somebody's head. Right. Here's another one, actually, bizarrely. This comes from a list of the top 31 questions asked at interviews. Here's another one, and actually this question is illegal to ask. However,
spicy.
You will get asked it.
Spicy.
Now, Anthony and I have never been asked this question. But you will.
That's our thumbnail. Me going.
You may find yourself getting asked this question. Do you see yourself having children?
Ooh. Yeah, that is super illegal. Yeah,
that's an illegal question to ask. So at least in New Zealand, you can't ask questions to do with race, religion. Whether you're looking at having children, those kinds of things, in a way that will prejudice you against the job, or affect you, in a prejudicial way. So that would be considered to be an illegal question. But of course, if you're in an interview, you can't turn around and say, actually, you can't ask me that.
No,
or you
because-
feel you
yeah,
can't say something like that.
Yeah.
Because again,
You're on the back foot the whole time.
I know, but I
Yeah.
read a really great model answer for this. And I think this is a model answer for any of those kind of illegal questions that you get asked or could potentially be asked. And the model answer for this was like, what you should do is say something along the lines of, hey, look, I'm not in a position in my life right now that, I'm really even considering whether I will or not, but I'm far more interested to hear about the opportunities and things that will be available to me through this role.
Yeah.
Like, again, you're putting it back on them to talk about the role rather than getting involved in a question of whether you are or are not going to have children. Or
100%.
those
That's
kinds
a
of
very
things.
good
Yeah.
answer. So that's a really good answer.
Yeah, I
from
thought that
James.
was really good.
And just on that note, I think that's probably an important time to, because I know a lot of like younger people listen to this. Guys, please do your research on questions before you go into an interview.
Oh, and
seek.co.nz actually have really good resources on what is a legal question or how to navigate the world of interview questions.
And I'm going to give Anthony one more question, and then we'll give our advice to you for interviewing. But the last question, or you'll get an iteration of this kind of question. How many tennis balls can you fit in a limousine? Or if you were an animal, what type of animal would you be?
Is this an interview for Google?
Yeah, so this will be an interview for any average sales job or any how many tennis balls can you fit into a limousine?
Well, first of all, I would my first. I'm not going to guess this because I don't have the expertise or the knowledge to know the answer to this question. So the first thing I would do is I would contact people who have a knowledge of limousines, and I would find out what the cubic meterage of a limousine, the inside of a limousine is, accounting for. You didn't state what type of limousine. Different limousines have different types of seating, which take up more room. I'd also I would research the size of a tennis ball, how much space that can take up, and obviously tennis balls, if you stack them in a certain way, can fill up a certain amount of room. So I would actually delegate that job to other people, and we would together come up with a good answer. Sorry, what was the second question?
If you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be?
If I was an animal, well, technically we are animals, we're humans. If I was an animal, I would probably be a antelope.
Why would you be an antelope?
Just because it's similar to my name.
Okay, so why do you get asked a question like this?
To throw you off the tedium and I repeat, the utter fucking tedium that is our lives. So and you get asked them to throw you off and to try and see how you respond under pressure.
Yeah. Can you come up with a logical sort of progression or answer for something that's a really out there question?
Yeah.
And they're really dumb because again, it has nothing to do necessarily with your core business, or has nothing to do with whether this person will be a good employee or not, whether they can, answer a question like this. So in these situations, there's no sort of right or wrong answer. What they're wanting to see is how you would go about finding an answer for the question, if that sort of makes sense. They like to see how you can think. But, you get thrown weird curveballs like that in interviews and that sort of stuff. So those are some dumb questions I've been asked in interviews. There are obviously many more dumb questions I've been asked in interviews, but those are ones that come up relatively frequently. So before we move on to the next part, do you want to give you some advice for interviews? Have you got some advice? For interviews?
Yeah, I do, because I've done a few. I've done a few.
Successfully, quite often.
Quite often successfully. And it's important as well, because you might, especially in this day and age, with the job market and everything, you're going to be in a position where sometimes you'll get the perfect interview, but you won't get the job.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's fine. So just always be early, like really early, like be 15 minutes early at least. Because
better to wait than be late.
And not just to show that you're early, but do you know what it does? It calms your nerves, because if you're early, then you're organized and you feel good because you're not rushing and you're not, so plan out your morning.
What's the old theatrical saying? Early's on time. On
Yeah,
time is late.
on time is late.
Late
yeah.
is fired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Which that's incredibly hypocritical of me giving this advice because I'm getting better. I'm getting better at being on time. I'm getting better, much better. My reputation precedes me because I'm much better at being on time now than I was. But you set up what you're wearing the night before. Yep. Okay, so you don't wake up and you're like, oh God, what am I going to wear? And oh God, I've got to iron my shirt. And Jesus Christ. Yep. Set up everything that you're going to be wearing the night before. Put them all on coat hangers on your door the night before, so that you're not rushing around trying to get that sorted. Have a shower in the morning, first thing in the morning, because it just wakes you up and you feel good and you feel clean and, all that. But also just, this is going to sound weird, but honestly, don't be afraid to let your personality come through because quite often, like, if you put on this, like, robotic, like, it shows, be human, be
engaging.
Yeah. And the biggest thing for me, honestly, the people interviewing you are just as nervous. They are just as nervous as you are conducting the interview, and awkward.
They actually want you. This is a weird thing to think about, but if you've got through to the interview portion, generally the people who are interviewing you, they want you to do well. Like, they actually don't want you to do poorly. They want you to do well. And to a certain extent, they can be just as invested as you in you doing well as you are in you doing well. Yeah. Because they
it's
don't
like auditions,
they don't want to be spending all their time interviewing people. They want to get the role filled. They want to, bring in somebody who's going to be great. So they're invested in you actually getting there. They're not there to beat you up generally.
100%. Yeah, they want you to succeed, and they feel just as weird asking these questions and awkward, because they are also human beings who are they feel just as weird. So be friendly, be sociable. They do appreciate trying to connect on a human level. So
I have a few pieces of advice. Always be clean. Smell good, but don't overdo it on the cologne or anything else like that. That could potentially be offensive generally whenever you're in a small area that you'll be interviewing in. But be clean, brush your hair. If you have facial hair, make sure it's well groomed or
groomed
those
or
kinds
shaved
of things.
off.
Groomed or shaved off. Do some research on the company. Know about the company that you are interviewing for. So you should be able to be relatively conversant with things like their goals, their mission statement, those kinds of things, because you will be asked about it in the interview. So
and actually the good thing about that as well, because sometimes their website will be lacking. Yeah. So sometimes you can sort of say what you know, but it actually points out to them. Yep.
Hey, I would like to have known more about this.
Yeah.
So know something about the company. Know something about the company that you are interviewing for. I cannot overstate the importance of that.
Yes.
Do a little bit of research.
It'll take 5-10 minutes. Yeah. And it makes a world of a difference.
Oh, and most companies have it on their websites, their mission statements, their goals, their that sort of stuff.
Yes, and you probably were going to get to this. Yeah. You will always get asked at the end of an interview, do you have any questions? Yeah. You need to have questions. Yeah. You need to ask them. So this is where it comes from, the research of the company. So you if you do your research, then you naturally will come up with questions. Yeah. Make sure you ask questions that prove that you've definitely done your research. Because if you do, then they go, oh, wow, okay, he asked a question that's quite relevant. Like, quite, and it shows you're inquisitive and it shows you care about the company.
Yeah. Real basic things. Shake hands when you come in. Yeah. Say hello to
human touch contact.
Say hello to everybody on the panel, if it's a panel. Shake hands and thank them for their time afterwards. Yeah. Like thank you for your time. Cool. All of those kinds of things. Those little things are really, really important. Watch your language. It's good to be personal on those sorts of things, but again, be aware that you are in a professional environment. Interviewing for a prospective job. So moderate that depending on the sort of job you're going for. I would say the same thing with dress. So if you are going for a job, in an office or, you know, a professional job or something else like that, you know, wear something very tidy. Generally, boys, that would mean, as Anthony said before, shirt, tie, blazer, that kind of stuff. It makes a huge difference. If you are going for a job in a retail store who don't sell that kind of thing, generally you wouldn't really be expected to appear at the interview dressed like that. Go in something that would match their kind of target demographic, if that's what you're going for. Yeah, so if you were going for an interview at, like, let's say off the top of my head, like a Hallenstein's or something like that, go dressed tidy but relatively fashionably in the kind of thing that they would be looking at selling, like because sure. that's what they want to see. So you know, those kinds of things. Doing your research 100%. makes a huge difference. Be personal, be engaging, be polite, say hello, say goodbye, all of those kinds of things. This is the biggest piece of advice I can get. Always be nice to the receptionist. Like always, it's a big deal. If you are waiting in a lobby or something else like that for a job interview, quite often the panel will ask the receptionist sort of what you were like, or they will give their opinion on what you were like, regardless of whether it's asked for or not. And they can massively smooth or massively hinder your progress. So I mean, you should always be polite to everyone. I mean, you should be anyway. But like you know, always.
Well, I mean, if you're not, the thing is, if that doesn't come to you naturally, then you actually don't deserve the job, and you actually need to sort yourself out.
Absolutely.
Like, to be fair.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's our dumb questions for interviews and interview advice.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Moving on to Uncanny Valley.
Uncanny Valley. Oh, it's the sun. Fucking it's
okay.
Fucking
So,
scum.
So Uncanny Valley, you've already seen who it's by. It's by the Sun. So this
scum.
is an interesting article that I got sent by Claire Rochester. So thank you, Claire, for this particular article. So this is an article that comes out of the UK. Based on the heat wave that they've been having there. And the title of this article is, "On Ice, Women Be Warned, Don't Put Ice Lollies in Your Vaginas to Cool Down in the UK Heat Wave, Say Doctors." So apparently in order to cool down, ladies have been using ice lollies, or what we'd call ice blocks here in New Zealand, in their vaginas in order to cool down.
What's the source for this news again?
So this is a consultant gynecologist.
No. Who's reporting?
Oh, this is from Gemma Mullen, who's the digital health reporter for
from
The Sun.
The Sun.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
30-second waffle.
So apparently this is what's been happening, and they're talking about how
this
obviously
has definitely been happening, guys.
Obviously, this is a really bad idea. Obviously, a really bad idea, right? So aside from trauma and everything else like that, it's a really bad idea. On that note, they go on to talk about a number of other things that women have been using for various reasons. One is garlic. Yeah. To treat...
to stop vampires.
Two things like treat thrush, I think it is.
To stop Twilight characters.
Yeah, it's, again, really bad because it gives you botulism. So
botulism, goodness me.
Yeah, so don't do that.
What century are we living in?
The other one is cucumber. So apparently health bloggers and things like that have encouraged women to cleanse their vaginas with cucumber. Again, not a great idea.
Why? Why not?
In the words, well, I'm going to give you the words of Dr. Gunter, who's a gynecologist, and this is their sage words of advice. If you have a vagina, you should definitely not do this.
All right,
fair enough. There you go. That's a medical opinion.
Thanks,
that's a medical opinion right there. The other one is parsley.
How?
To induce a period, apparently.
How does parsley work?
Apparently induces a period. But
isn't parsley like a soft
look.
So how would that work?
I don't know, but apparently, doctors are saying, look, there is no evidence to suggest that this is good.
There's also no evidence to suggest that any of this ever happened.
Okay, so
thanks, The Sun.
So Esoterica says, don't stick things in there that aren't supposed to be in there. It's a bad idea.
We also say, burn every copy of The Sun that you can see.
It's a credible news source. I don't know what you're talking about.
Credible. And it's very flammable.
Yeah. All right. Cool. 30-second waffle. That's all we had for That's all we had for Uncanny Valley.
Just don't.
So we're you just don't. Just don't.
Just don't.
Just don't.
It won't cool you down.
No.
It's a bit like in general ice cream. It's a well-known thing that ice cream actually doesn't cool you down. Eating ice cream actually heats you up because of the energy that you use, and your body reacts to the.
When your body, homeostasis, your body tries to keep the same temperature. So anything like that does not help. It might make you feel better eating ice cream to think you could, but it doesn't actually help.
It does not.
All right, 30-second waffle. Let's get into some 30-second waffles.
Let's go.
You're going to go first because I've decided this because I can't remember who went first last time.
Cool. All right,
Cool. Right.
Cool, like a nice
we
block
go.
right up the wazoo.
Yeah, it's nice having some 30-second waffles here because obviously we've taken a bit of
nice.
a hiatus, so there's a few around in here.
It is. Okay, cool. This is cool. So this is for me. This is from Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
This will be fun at Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, so people who live without religion don't have morals. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
That's true.
Okay.
It's true because I don't live with morals.
You have none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who don't live with religion don't have morals because morals were constructed by religion. So, like, the modern day, the pillars of society are built on religion and on, what we need to abide by, the 10 Commandments. How would we know how to conduct ourselves in a society without religion dictating to us how we should be living? How else will we know?
Yep. Okay.
How else will we know?
Yeah.
How else will we know it's over now? Except for maybe
everything that you feel to be right or wrong.
Basically everything.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. You obviously 100% agree with that 30-second waffle.
100%
You're
agree.
100% into
yeah.
into
100% agree.
religion teaches you morals.
It does. Religion, because, if we didn't have religion, then how else would we know not to do things like murder and adultery and things?
Absolutely.
We need those words and not, decent... that's always been a problematic thing for me when people... That's used as quite a common argument from people who are religious. They say, well, if we don't have religion, how do you know what the basic morals are? Like, what stops you from murdering and raping? And I'm like, okay, first of all, it terrifies me that the one thing stopping you from murdering and raping is a fucking book.
Yeah.
Or, whatever. But,
because we know those things are.
Because we know.
We know
they
those
are
things are
intrinsically
wrong
human.
It's like that whole
And
thing
it's
of
humanity
if we
and,
legalize dope, suddenly everybody's going to be smoking dope.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah, I've had that.
Just
I'm like,
because-
what about all the people driving and smoking dope? What about the people driving and drinking now?
Yeah.
Like, how is that going to make it any worse?
Just because it's legal doesn't mean that everybody's suddenly going to go and do it.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. Moving on. All right. Boom.
We're getting through this. Anthony has somewhere to be, so we're moving really
I've
quickly.
got places to be, people to see.
This is from Chris JDSS.
Wow.
Okay, cool. What? 10 should be made out... Tea should be made out of something.
Order.
What?
Tea should be made out of order.
Tea should be made out of order. Milk. Almost boiled water. Then a tea bag.
That is a fantastic. Wow.
Okay.
Should be
So
in
tea
prison.
should definitely be made. Well, this is not even out of order. This is in order with your milk, almost boiled water, then a tea bag. The reasoning for this is because then you can control exactly the amount of tea-ness you want in your tea. Because the problem is when you pour boiling water directly over your tea bag, it automatically teas up the water, and you can't control the amount of tea that is in there. Also, it makes it easier with the milk, so the milk goes through it. Oh God, I hate this so much.
That's awful, eh?
This is awful. Number one, if you're putting milk in your tea, you should be shot. You are not actually drinking tea. What are you, 2? No, you shouldn't have milk in your tea.
Milkshake.
Milk.
It's a
The
milkshake.
only way to drink tea is black. That is the only way to drink tea. The boiling water goes on the tea bag.
Black like our souls.
Black like our souls. The stronger, the better. If you drink milk in your tea, unsubscribe. You are horrific.
Seriously,
horrific.
delete.
I will leave then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Goodbye, producer Caroline.
Yeah.
You are a
Delete
horrific.
Facebook, hit the gym.
You are a
we're up
horrific
right now.
person. A horrific person.
Yeah.
Milking your
Absolutely disgusting.
tea.
Makes me sick.
Ugh.
Makes me goddamn
Wait,
sick.
it makes me goddamn sick. That's what we should be locking people. You see, that's what religion should be focusing on.
It should be.
People drinking milk in their
should
tea.
be. It should be.
You see, that's why people do disgusting things like that, because it's not in the Bible that you shouldn't drink.
100%.
Milk in your tea.
And this is from Juice Goblin. Hey, Juice Goblin. Juice Goblin's one of the very, very early adopters of... Early adopters? We're talking about it like it's a piece of technology. Early subscribers and listeners and watchers of Esoterica. Why Producer Caroline is more important to the podcast than Ant and James combined. This will not be difficult. Because it's true.
This is That's as far as justifications go. Yeah.
Producer Caroline is more important than James and I combined to the podcast because she is basically the spine, the pillar of the podcast. She dictates basically when we do it, why we do it, and how we do it. And the fact of the matter is we wouldn't be sitting here right now every single time if it wasn't for the motivation and for the spirit that Producer Caroline gives it. And the look and the feel and obviously editing. If she wasn't editing it, then it wouldn't happen anyway. And she edits it and puts it together, and it's true. And it's not just
Runs all the other social media.
Runs everything.
No arguments here.
I know we've run out of time, but I'm just going to say it's more than us combined. It's like us combined times 2.5.
It's very specific. Yeah. But true.
Sorry, 2.6. Actually,
2.6.
I thought about it more, but no, it's very true. That's very true.
Right.
Very important.
There you go. That was a nice one.
It was a nice one,
Unlike-
actually. And Juice Goblin, you've been paying attention. I can tell you've been paying
Unlike
attention.
almost
tell.
boiled water in your tea with milk.
Yeah, yucky.
Oh, Chris Chris
Oh,
SJDD again. Churches should have a salary cap.
Is it
Cap on the tax-free status. Churches should have a salary cap on
I mean,
the tax-free status.
Yes.
Can
we just say yes?
Okay. Churches should have a salary cap on the tax-free status. In fact, not only should they have a salary cap on the tax-free status, they should not be tax-free at all. In fact, churches should pay just as much tax as everybody else. The benefit that they bring to communities is negligible, other than a social thing. If I was running a social club, I would be taxed on everything that I did. So I 100% believe that churches, if not, should be not tax exempt or have a salary cap on the amount of money they can make, especially when you look at these mega churches and things like that, where you have pastors who are raking in millions and millions and millions of dollars and buying private jets and those kinds of things, claiming to work for the poor and those kinds of things. I think it's absolutely horrific. I think it is not only a misuse of funds and things like that. I think it is a con preying on weak and vulnerable people to scam them out of their money. And that's,
wow,
that is
okay.
that is
Now,
that is not even a
okay.
Hot
Wow.
today.
Now, James, can you please now tell us how you really feel? That, by the way, I think that was a fantastic answer. I mean, it wasn't 30 seconds, but I think that was fantastic. And
that is legitimately how I feel.
That is
I
I
have no
100%. We're all backing you there.
I
This is
have
great.
no
Yeah.
look. I have
100% agree.
nothing against people who choose religion. I have nothing with
No.
people who want to go to church and live in a community where people have similar values and all of those kinds of things. Go nuts, absolutely. If that's what you're not harming anybody else, go hard. But where quite often these things are set up as tax exempt institutions for the enrichment of the people running them. Destiny's Church is a good one that I can call to mind. Here in New Zealand, where they're run as tax exempt institutions for people to what do you call it?
Prey on the vulnerable.
Prey on the vulnerable. I think those are horrific things. I also think that whenever businesses are run by churches and things like that, so if you
Looking
want to
at you, Salvation Army.
but no, not even Salvation Army, because at least you can say they do something. But I mean, like, you're talking about the majority of cereal.
They're homophobic.
No, but
though.
cereal.
They're homophobic as hell. Sorry.
Cereal in New Zealand cereal in New Zealand is a very hard market to break into because the two big cereal producers here in New Zealand are run by the church, and so any churches. So any profits that they make are tax exempt. So anybody else wanting to get into the cereal market here in New Zealand can't do it because they're competing with tax exempt institutions in order to try and set up a business, and I think that's absolutely wrong. I think it's 100% wrong. So I fully agree.
I think
with
we'll
that.
see in our lifetime that'll change. I think we'll see that even
I hope
within
so.
the next 10 years.
I
I'd
hope
say.
so.
Next 10
I
years,
significantly hope so.
Yeah.
I really, really do.
Hey, I just want to say it's been really nice to be back.
It is.
Just as we wind up, like it's been really nice to be back. I feel good.
Yeah.
And it's been really nice. And look, thank you for your patience. And I'm sorry that it's, but this is nice. This is really
It's always
cool.
good to be back, and it's always good to have people wanting more, not sitting there going, "Oh, go away."
100%. Yeah. Like stop it.
So thank you for being so patient.
Yeah,
with
thank
us.
you. And you'll get you're probably alerted to this podcast or in a notification saying Esoterica have uploaded a podcast, and it really does mean a lot to us that you've decided to listen.
Yeah.
So as we said, going forward fortnightly.
Yep.
Next podcast will be the 19th.
Yeah.
After this.
Yep. So the 19th after this, but please know that this was a decision based on quality over quantity.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
we don't want to be just hashing out, as James said very eloquently at the start of the podcast. We don't want to hash out the same old rubbish and be sort of picking on dregs.
Yeah.
We want this to be good.
Yeah. And we want to enjoy coming here and talking to you fortnightly.
Yeah.
And hopefully you continue to listen and you continue to support and continue to jump across onto the streams and come and chat to us there and all of those good things. So thank you very much, lovely people. We will see you for a stream. We'll already have done the Sunday stream.
The podcast will already be out.
But
so yesterday I streamed.
Yesterday, we were
at the end of
streaming.
Spyro the Dragon.
And
Our purple boy.
Then we'll be together on Wednesday, won't we?
We'll be together again for the first time on Wednesday.
That's right. So look forward to seeing you then. Awesome.
See you then.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.